Hello, gang, and welcome to another cocktail hour. That gang is all here, plus we got some critters. You gotta love it. I'm Andy.
And I'm Sherry. Sorry, I was muted so my dog wouldn't bark at me.
Oh, and I'm Colette.
And welcome. It's the holidays, and it's crazy out there, people. So be careful. I'm just saying. I went to the mall a couple days ago.
Really?
Holy
Why would you do
Of
that?
your own free will, you did that?
Yes. I decided I was tired of my silly ass phone, so I went to an AT&T retailer. I was going to buy my phone outright. They said, "Oh no, you can't do that anymore." What? You have to go payment plan. I'm like, I am not going to a damn payment plan. So I went to the mall because there's a gigantic AT&T store in there, right? And they said, "Oh no, only payments." They go down to the Apple store downstairs. So that's
part of that is because, phones are $1 billion now, or maybe $1.5 billion.
I think they're a
So-
billion and a half now.
Yeah, so I don't think that they expect anybody to walk in with $1,000 of cash in their hand and be like, "I want to buy this."
I think you're right, but
so
it's a shame they don't have the option.
I'm sure that you stunned them all.
I did.
But
It
yeah.
flipped out.
But
They-
plus, they can charge more if you do it on a payment plan. So there is no way in hell they're going to let you just pay for it.
And that's what my point was. It's an Apple phone. I'd rather take it on the chin right up now than pay extra for this expensive ass phone down the road.
Mm.
Yep.
There you go. But
There you go.
And I have a new phone.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're not here to talk about my phone, but we always segue into something. We're here to actually talk a little bit about the holidays, which we just did. And I know, I was like, what the hell?
You're gassy.
I'm
Gassy
drinking
today.
soda. We're reviewing The Man from the Train from Bill James. Did you guys read it?
Really?
I got I got about 6 hours in. I couldn't do it anymore. I don't know. I had a real hard time. We'll talk about it, but no, I
think this
didn't
will be an
finish.
interesting. Yeah, I am going to say yes and no.
You were 10 hours in when I talked to you about it. Did you do any more?
Well, okay. So, yes, but I did not do consecutive hours. I had to skip some shit. I'm just going to put it out there. Right? But I got to the end. Because you pick it up and you drop it later. You know what I mean? Yeah. We'll talk about that. Yeah, we'll talk about it.
I suspect.
Luckily, you've read it like 18 times. So
I don't know.
And you love it, right?
It's
Love.
about this. Yeah, it just appeals to me. I don't know. But yes, we will talk about it. Is anybody drinking something alcoholic for this show?
Yes.
What's drinking?
Okay, so I sent you guys that recipe.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I forgot.
Ebenezer Scrooge Spritz. It includes a thing that I can't remember the name of now.
Sire or something, CYAR or something like that.
Hang on. Shinar? Like, it's spelled CYNAR, and it looks like Sinar, but apparently only hobos and ignorant people call it that. So I found the recipe, and I'm like, well, this is okay, because it's got sparkling white wine. I'm using Prosecco, which is one of my favorite things to drink.
Yeah.
And it's got lemon, and it's got ginger liqueur, and I love all of those things. But then it also has like 1.5 ounces of and so when I Googled it to figure out what it was, people were like, morons call it Sinar, but it's like, it's like, oh, Okay. Well, I don't want to be a moron or one of the
too late.
unwashed.
Too late. You've
Apparently,
already set it out there.
it is a bittersweet liqueur that is made out of artichokes.
What?
Which really just goes to show that when faced with the need for alcohol, people will find a way.
Isn't that the truth? Holy shit.
Artichokes.
Artichokes.
Damn. I
Yeah.
completely forgot about the recipe. I apologize because I definitely would have tried it.
Well, I don't know that you have. I mean, the ingredients are not
I
your
don't-
standard bar fare.
I don't have the
there was-
last of those items.
Yeah, there was no way in hell I was gonna go to the liquor store today. So I'm trying real hard, like not to put on pants for the rest.
See,
of the
I
holiday.
can relate to that.
Yeah.
I don't
Do you have
put
pants on right now?
Ish.
Am I the only one with legit pants on right
I
now?
have sweatpants. I don't know if those are those legit pants. I mean, if the house caught fire, I could go outside. You know.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Go outside for the fire in my boxer briefs. I don't give a shit.
Oh.
My bills.
It's cold here.
Huh?
I'm sure it's not cold in Florida,
No,
but
it's cold in my
here.
house, but it ain't cold outside.
It's 50
Okay.
degrees here.
15?
50.
Oh,
50.
That's
50.
weird, right?
Yeah, because it was 6 when I went to the gym on Wednesday.
Wow.
Yeah, legit. It was 6.
Holy cats.
All right,
It's a
I'm
good thing
refreshing.
that climate change is not a legit thing. you
Yeah.
know?
It's 43 here. So it's colder
Oh, wow.
here than it is where you are, Sherry.
Yeah, that's sad. All right, what are you drinking, Andy?
I'm just drinking a Zivia Cola. Nothing exciting. I couldn't think I was gonna do wine. I completely forgot about the suggestion. And I thought I'm just not in the mood for wine. So I'm like, screw it. I'll just have some cola. I won't be nearly as fun this holiday recording.
I know. Can you your bar's right there. Can you just step over there and take a couple shots real quick?
I see Chambord from here, and I see Tito's vodka.
Oh, how about that rye I got for Christmas last year?
There, now everybody can see Andy's underwear.
I don't care. I'm in my
Holy
Merry Christmas, damn it!
mother truckers. I'm in my underwear. Okay. All right. So I have a shot glass. I have Redemption Rye.
That stuff's good.
We are gonna have a shot.
Okay.
You give in so easily.
You're not gonna. Oh shit!
There
All right,
we go.
I'm not doing that with my Ebenezer Scrooge
I
spritzer.
feel like every time the word axe comes up, Andy should take a shot.
Oh my God! I'd be in the hospital with alcohol poisoning. What are you talking about? Come on now.
Right. Let's do it every time the word suck comes up.
Word what?
Suck.
All right. Well, let's tell everybody basically what this story's about before we beat the shit out of it, because that's clearly where it's going.
Wow. As she pours her second.
She's ready. She's ready.
It was delicious. I had to have some.
Hold on. Don't you want to know what I'm drinking?
Water with.
Hot damn it, you son of a bitch! Get out of the way.
It's
I'm having a chai latte, an iced chai latte.
Well, I have Buster dip his tail in it. It might be tastier.
It's delicious.
There is nothing that is made tastier with cattail in it.
Everything's better with a pussy in your face.
Woo! I'll drink to that.
Okay.
All right, Andy, you have the book memorized, so maybe you should give the summary.
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Or maybe not.
Damn, maybe not. Okay, hold on. Seriously.
Christmas, bitches.
I know, right? Oh my God. Okay. Between 1898 and 1912, families across the country were bludgeoned in their sleep with the blunt side of an axe. Some of these cases, like the infamous Wasilla, Iowa murders, received national attention, but most incidents went almost unnoticed outside the communities in which they occurred. Few people believed the crimes were related, and fewer still would realize that all of these families lived within walking distance to a train station. When celebrated true crime expert Bill James first learned about these horrors, he began to investigate others that might fit the same pattern. Applying the same know-how he brings to his legendary baseball analysis, he empirically determined which crimes were committed by the same person. Then, after sifting through thousands of local newspapers, court transcripts, and public records, he and his daughter Rachel made an astonishing discovery. They learned the true identity of this monstrous criminal and uncovered one of the deadliest serial killers in America.
Okay, can we go back to, before you close that out, where they refer to the author as a celebrated true crime expert? Is that what they called him?
That's what they said.
And what is that based on? Because he's like a baseball statistician.
He is, but I didn't look to see if he did anything else. I'm just reading let me see what he did. I'm going into
maybe it's because of all of the research that he did for this book.
Except that it seemed like his daughter kind of came in and did all the research and did like the heavy lifting.
Oh, is that right? I didn't get far enough.
He's got a lot of stuff out there. The only other true crime I see is something called Popular Crime, Reflections on the Celebration of Violence, if that's even him. Yeah, looks like it might be. And the rest of it looks like it's to do with baseball.
Right. So this, so you read the premise of the book, right? Yeah. And it sounds very I'll Be Gone in the Darky, which was a great book.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that author didn't even get to finish it. You know, she did such right. And before she was able to figure out who the killer was, which happened after her death. And that book was still amazing, right? So maybe it was not fair for me to compare that book, which is exceptional.
Slow down.
I'm going to be slow on this one.
Like maybe, I don't know, maybe I came in with very high expectations, right? Because Andy loved it.
Like 10 times.
Yeah, and it sounds very similar to a book that we'd already done that was really good. But I mean, can I just mention something that drove me fucking crazy about this book? Okay.
Do it.
Right. So these murders took place in the late 19th century, very early 20th century.
Yeah.
So census records, I would say, are spotty at best.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of information where they just don't know stuff. Or it's like Gerald Jones, also known as Chippy Jones, also known as Gerbela Jukenchonken. Also, all these people had multiple names. And we spent a lot of time on all of these different murders. And then you would get, God knows how many pages in, and he'd be like, but I don't think the man on the train killed these people. What?
Yeah,
Why did I just give you all of those minutes and hours of my life so that you could just hold them down and scoot your anus on them back and forth?
I did have an issue with that too, and that was you guys know, normally I finish a book, but after my second day of putting in, several hours, the first two or three chapters, I rewound and listened to the complete thing. Like I must have re-listened to the first three chapters like 4 times without exaggeration.
Why?
Because I couldn't remember who was doing what, and I would just like zone out, and then like halfway through be like, I don't know anything of what I just listened to. So I rewound it and listened again. Hey, get your ass off of there.
So, cat. I mean, so like the basic gist is there was this, they call it a famous unsolved murder. What's that?
In Villisca? Is that the one you're speaking about?
Right. I've never heard of it. Had you guys heard of it before you read this book?
Yeah.
I didn't hear about, though I think the only one I did hear about was the New Orleans Axeman, and the only reason I'd ever heard of that was because of American Horror Story. So I got about 6 hours in, and then I think there were two major things that made me just say, you know what, I can't do it anymore. And that was, it was after, I think, the last one where he went on and on about this case that had nothing to do with the dude. And for some reason, I mean, normally I can handle gore and descriptions of violence and stuff, but for some reason, I had a real hard time with this one. The constant description of heads mashed, and this publication described it more as a smash or pulp, for some reason I really had a tough time with it. So I think it might have been more of where I am emotionally or mentally right now. And also I really I didn't care for the narrator, and I didn't like the author's voice. I didn't like his writing style. Yeah, I just like the whole thing. I had a real tough time with the whole thing. And then after that last one, I just sat back and I thought, you know what, I'm going to take this one as a miss. I'm going to just chalk it up.
Is this the first time that we have done a book and Sherry is the only one who didn't finish it?
No, I think there was one other, and I ran out of time. I don't remember what it was, but
okay. This was a time management thing. But I mean, because usually you're the one who's mad at us. Yeah, because we flip the table and we're like, screw it, I'm not going to read anymore.
I think this is the first time I've ever done that, where I ever made a conscious choice to where, you know what, I just can't do it.
Right.
Yeah, I was seriously disturbed by the constant graphic descriptions, even though they weren't really all that terribly graphic. I don't know, they just really bugged me. Maybe it was because there were children and because of the raping and such of the young girls, and that a thing. I don't really know, but that really bothered me.
Well, and I'm sure that had something to do with it, because that was one of the least. I mean, I don't want to use the word palatable, but I mean that it was one of the more troubling aspects of the story.
That he was also a pedophile and necrophiliac.
Sure.
Yeah, but they never. I don't recall, and maybe I just like blanked out on that part. But I mean, I never got the impression that this killer actually raped somebody. Yeah, I always thought it was like he jerked off kind of thing.
No, they had one of them had semen. They had their legs were, I don't remember, it was something, but it was but I was sure that he said that there were
it's okay. So I do think that in the majority of cases the young girls had semen on them, right? Which kind of implied that he masturbated over them either while he was killing them or after he killed them or just prior to killing them. It's entirely possible that the rapes happened in one of the many cases where, after he described it in amazing Technicolor, he said, "But this wasn't from the man on the train."
Might have been.
Honestly, I don't remember, but dear listeners, so the gist of this is it starts with that so-called famous killing, right? Yes. And it's very strange because this whole family is bludgeoned to death with an axe, and I think their house was locked from the inside.
Yeah, that was one of his things, right? He locked the house or blocked the door and covered up the windows and stuff.
Right. And the house was fairly close to the train tracks. And this author decides to see if there are other killings in other parts of the country that meet the same sort of basic criteria. And he finds this whole slew of killings from the late 19th century to early 20th century that are within X number of miles of a train station and the train tracks, where an entire family is killed. There always seemed to be a young sort of pre-adolescent girl. Mm-hmm. In many instances, he burned down the house. Mm-hmm. So it was typically outside of small towns where his expectation was that by the time people realized there was a fire, there would be no successful extinguishing it. And he never stole, like, it was never a robbery. Like, money was in plain sight. People were dead with their jewelry still on. Right. So he decides that he and his daughter are going to set about going through all of these murders that have a lot of commonalities, and try and determine if this was a serial killer. And he basically comes out and says, yes, it was. And that's why when he spends all of this time talking about this, this particular murder, and then what felt like hours later, after discussing things in horrible, brutal detail, he's like, but that wasn't the man on the train. And then we go to the next one, right? And then at the very end, like the last couple of chapters, he decides to give the name of who he thinks the man on the train was, and what he thinks happened to him, and where he gathers that data from. So I think, for me, there were two things that made it really challenging. One, we've already talked about, all the time that he spends on murders that he determines are not connected to this. And two was just sort of, I don't know, he was just a little too glib for me. And that says something, right? Because I'm kind of a small
he really was
piece of shit. But, when he's talking about somebody getting their head beaten in, I don't know, he made some jokes and some, like, dad puns.
That bothered me too, yeah.
Yeah, and it
just seemed like too serious of a topic to be making the kinds of jokes that he was making. I really just didn't like him at all.
Well, okay, so, and a third thing, which has nothing to do with him whatsoever, is that it's very troubling to hear about all of these instances where this a white person gets killed, and then local black people get lynched before they're even really charged with anything. And they're not even arrested for cause in many instances. They're arrested because they're black. Kind of like today.
Yeah, disgraceful.
Yeah. So, that's really heavy. And then when he comes by and is like, ha ha ha, dad joke, pew pew, and I'm like, oh, you're a dick. But that was, yeah. So that's what made it really hard. I feel like this book could have been half the length and so much better.
Yeah. I agree. There was parts that could have been edited out and made it a lot more streamlined. No doubt about it. But I don't know. I don't know if it's the as you guys know, and I think you guys might be too, I'm fascinated by serial killers. And that's one of the reasons why I really enjoy reading, watching, listening to true crime. What makes these people tick? Why weren't they caught? What do they do? What are their trophies? Blah, 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 blah. And I have always been fascinated by two unsolved cases, Velisca and Hinter Kaifek.
What's that?
You didn't listen to the end. Hinter Kaifek. He talked about when he thinks Paul Mueller was the serial killer here, the man from the train. And at some point, he pushed his luck too far. And he thought, Christ, I need to get out of the country, right? So Bill James postulates that he went
and
back.
He is an immigrant, right? The guy that James identifies as the man from the train is an immigrant either from Germany or Austria. Right.
So he postulates that Paul Mueller went back to Germany. Now, I think this is during the outbreak of World War I or close to it. And there was a small town, Hinter Kaifek. And Kaifek is the actual city. But
that's the one that you made me watch that, or you didn't make me, but is that the lore episode that we watched? That was really interesting. Okay. I see.
Kaifek is the city, but Hinter Kaifek means it's, out in the fucking boonies, right out of Kaifek. So there was a family that lived outside of Kaifek in Hinter Kaifek. And they had, a house. They had a pen for the animals. I don't remember how they made their money. I don't remember. But it was this crazy, weird family. And the unsolved case is everybody was slaughtered. And they were found covered in hay in the barn. And I always found that fascinating. I don't know. I'm crazy. And between those two, when I found out that this book tackled or solved these unsolved mysteries, there was no way I was going to listen to it. And then once I listened to it, even though there were cases that he did a lot of background and blah, 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 I think he was trying to prove that through their research that even though these other cases kind of mirrored or were closely thought to be, that they weren't because of this, right? So yeah, there's a little bit you got to slog through because it's not, the pacing isn't probably quick as it should be. But I found it fascinating the more they built up over the years and what happened, even, from a sociological standpoint in our history. I think it all was just too damn fascinating for me to just let go. And that's why I listened to it quite a bit.
So before you read this the first time, you were already familiar with both of the high-profile cases.
Yes.
The one in Europe and the one in the United States.
Yes.
And had you made any kind of connection between them before you read this? No.
And no.
See,
because
I had never heard of either.
There's a few. Lore, which is it Amazon? I think it's Amazon. Lore has 2 seasons. One of the episodes in the season is about Hinter Kaifek. And if you haven't seen it, I strongly recommend you take a look at it. Velisca, on the other hand, is not on there in Lore. But there's tons of stuff out there. There's a lot of YouTube documentaries. You can see all about it. You see pictures of the people they're talking about, blah, blah, blah. And it's really quite a sad story, especially when you know that this was, not only was it the family that got killed, but it was a couple of friends of the little girls that was staying over got killed too.
Right. So
can you imagine what the parents of those girls must have just tore them up for the rest of their lives. But I don't know. I found the whole thing completely enthralling, but yes, it could have been trimmed down. There's no doubt about it. But I've just found it fascinating.
So I went to when I was putting down on Goodreads that I was listening to it, I saw your rating and you only gave it 3 stars. And that made me wonder. It's like, okay, she's given it 3 stars, but I know she's listened to it at least 4 times. Why the low rating?
Well,
What were the
I
things
think of it as a
that gave
halfway point. It's a halfway point for me. 3 stars means it was entertaining, it was good. 4 stars means oh my god, it's awesome. And then 5 stars is stop whatever you're doing and do this now. So a lot of my stuff is 3 stars. And I know the subject matter isn't for everybody, so I try to temper my ratings a little bit.
Okay.
But this one really impacted me, and I've only been able to explain it the way I have.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have definitely been edited down a little bit. There's no doubt about it. But I just found it fascinating, and I love the narrator. Oh my god, I don't know about that guy.
That was the thing I really did.
I mean,
not like the narrator.
I didn't have a problem with him. I mean, he has a nice sort of smooth, velvety voice.
Yeah, man.
I think it was the author's voice I didn't like, and I jacked up the speed to 1.5 times because he talked so slowly, and I didn't like it very much. It was too
again,
slow.
right? So I think this book is what, like 400 and something pages.
It's a 17-hour book,
right?
For
But
audio,
I mean, it's
right?
it's long. And when you consider that each character, and when I say character, I mean every person that's mentioned, right, has like 3 or 4 other alternate names. Right. It's like we got to the point where I was like, all right, this is like the Brothers Karamazov, and I can't keep anybody straight anymore, and I don't know who we're talking about anymore. And that's basically when I picked up, and I was like, all right, I'm going to skip an hour and then see if I notice. And I didn't. We jumped right in to some more dead people who may or may not have anything to do with the man on the train. So the thing I thought was interesting, right? So this guy is all about sports. He's a sports statistician, and he uses his methods to determine who is potentially a victim of the man on the train and who was just unlucky or whatever. whatever the other group of people is. But in some instances, it didn't feel like statistics, or maybe it did, because I remember when I took college level statistics, really the main thing that I learned is you can make any numbers support whatever you want it to if you sort them and filter them properly.
There's an old adage about that,
Oh?
Figures don't lie, but liars figure.
Oh, well, there you go. Perfect, right? So, I mean, there were times when he would just come to a conclusion, but it wasn't because he necessarily had any really good reasons. It was just like, yeah, I just have a gut feeling, and I don't think he did it. And then when you get to the end, right, and he ties it in with that other high-profile that you were just talking about, he was like, yeah, and I think it was him because I have no reason not to think that.
I understand exactly what you're saying. I do. But he does, in fairness to the author, he does state that this is supposition, or, this is why I believe this way. I mean, he doesn't state his actual fact, but he tells you why he feels that this should be constituted as a crime of the man from the train, and the same MO, if you will. So I get what you're saying. I do. But I think he also is bright enough to say when he's making suppositions, which he does.
Mm-hmm. So that kind of reminds me of the one that we did where the dude thought that his father was which one was he? The Zodiac killer?
Was it the Zodiac?
Yeah.
Where there were like no, I mean, it was just complete, like random, unprovable stuff. So is that, I mean, since I didn't finish it, how does he get to the point where he thinks, first of all, how did he identify Paul Mueller?
I don't remember. I don't. That's a good question. Damn it! How many times I listened to that and I don't even freaking remember. Oh my god! I need more
All
alcohol.
right, so you better slow down. You're gonna fall off your chair.
I love it when she says that. I remember. I swear to God, the thing that I remember, like I can hear the narrator in my voice. I mean, in my head. See, drinking already. It says, "And now it's time to reveal the name of the man from the train."
Wait. I remember. I remember. Okay, so they go back to the original murder, right? The one that he thinks is first.
Yeah.
And then this guy actually has ties to that family and the father of that family.
Okay.
And yeah, because remember, he buys a train ticket with a coin from that guy's coin collection. He has like a, seriously, Andy, you don't remember any of that?
No, it's not even sounding vaguely familiar.
Yeah, so he is basically he is a worker, and I guess I can't remember the circumstances of their falling out, right? But
Oh,
he's
that was a different family. That was the ones that was later. That wasn't the first family. I think
Was that the one that hired the people and were really mean to them and said don't talk to the neighbors?
That was the family that like she had $3,000 hidden somewhere in the house because she didn't trust banks, and they didn't hire local people because they didn't trust them. So what they hired was like day workers
from the train.
That's the case you're talking about. But I don't think that was the first one.
Well, because his whole point was that frequently people who end up becoming serial killers, the first time that they kill somebody, it's not that necessarily they haven't thought about killing people or that they don't have a desire to kill people, but circumstances put them in a place where suddenly they're like, all right, this is it, I'm going to kill somebody. Right. And then that becomes the catalyst, the spark. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And then and the feeling that they get from that is something that they perpetually try and recreate.
Yeah.
Right. So I was under the impression that the first time he killed somebody, it was this person. He had a coin collection of semi-rare coins. And the reason that they thought that it was him was the dude gets killed, the whole family gets killed, and then he ends up leaving town, and the guy at the train station remembers him buying a ticket at like 4 a.m. with a rare coin that ended up being part of that guy's coin collection. And at that point, they pieced it together.
Well, I'm gonna have to listen to it again.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah, I'm sure I will. Damn.
But then there was a lot of, right, so then they try and do some research on Paul Miller, yeah, right? He's Mueller, he's Miller, he's Mueller, he's everything because everybody has 52 names.
Right, and he's squat and short, has bad teeth, doesn't know how to socialize.
Right.
He's got a chip on his shoulder. Blah, blah, blah.
Right. But then he draws a lot of psychological conclusions on his own, right? Like he thinks that originally he killed the family and the little girl just happened to be there. And then
that wasn't the first one though.
He ends up developing this fascination with pre-adolescent girls because and again, these are all just guesses on his part. He's like, he's probably never been in a relationship where he's had sex, and like we don't know that. Yeah,
that's true. I mean, because Villisca was such a big deal, right? I think it's fascinating, and I agree with Bill James. When you have a murder like that, right? The doors were jammed. The curtains were shut. These people were killed in a matter of minutes. The This guy lingered, did whatever the hell he felt like he wanted to do, and then boop, and he's out. That this was not his first rodeo. And that's what prompted him and his daughter to do this research, because there wasn't a network like we have today with so much information to sift through that it was an odyssey for them to do this research to find out, was there any crimes that were similar or matched the MOs to what the hell happened in Villisca? And I think it's really, really fascinating. Really fascinating. And like I said earlier, I'm feeling like a freaking parrot. That, I mean, he does tell you when he's making suppositions. But yeah, it's just amazing. And I don't know if it's true. I don't know if Paul Mueller is the killer, if he is the man from the train. But I think there's some pretty strong arguments for it.
Telemarketer.
I don't know who that is. I'm muting.
Damn it, man. Well, we had telemarketer for you. We've got Buster in Sherry's grill. You know.
What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
Sorry you guys didn't really enjoy it as much as I did. But since I heard nothing from either one of you, I had a suspicion. You didn't finish it. You didn't like it. And that's okay. I mean, you know.
I thought about telling you, but then I was like, no, I'm gonna just get their reaction on the spot.
Sherry, didn't you try and read this before, or?
No, I didn't.
Because I got the sense, like, when Andy was pitching it, you were like, no. And I thought that it was because you had tried in the past and failed.
No, I hadn't. I don't know why. I just every time, whenever Andy would bring it up, I was just kind of like, yeah, okay, I'll read it. But then it just never.
Yeah, but you know what?
I don't know. I think it might have just been the title. I don't know.
That happens, I think, to each of us when you know we're trying to figure out what to read. I mean, it depends on where you're at the time, right? Does this appeal? Does that appeal? I mean, you know, it might not appeal to me today, but in a month from now, I'm like, holy shit, why didn't I read this earlier? You know?
Right.
So,
I think there were just a lot of things, I think, that kind of conspired to get me to the point where I didn't feel good, you know, and I just was like, you know what? It's my turn. I get to say I'm not finishing this book. So
absolutely.
All right.
I get it. No
absolutely. In fact, you probably get a couple of more to make you even.
Yeah. All right. We'll see.
And so again, we have a nice murder to talk about during the holidays. That seems to be our holiday theme. Not all of us enjoyed it, clearly, but that
was, you know, at least something that went into the decision. It was like, well, it's Christmas, so there should be dismemberment and potentially sexual assault.
I mean, right? Nothing says Christmas like sexual assault.
Tis the season.
Tis the season. I mean. Sorry, I don't have my phone. Oh, god damn it. Hold on, y'all. I don't even know how to close this off. Okay, then close that off. What the hell was I going to go with this?
I don't know, because I don't know what just happened.
I know. My phone.
I was concerned that your house was on fire.
Oh, my.
Cricket. Oh, because then she'd have to run out.
I'll tell you that right now. Well, okay, so I liked it. You guys didn't. I got a loser on my hands. I mean, I got one in the column for me. I got a long way to go.
Baby, no. Baby, no.
Wait,
one? this month. One this month.
Wait, which column?
You've recommended some stinkers before. I mean, not as many as Colette.
You got me confused with Colette. Wow.
All right, well, but what I can say is any book that I have recommended that I have already read, you guys liked. The ones that you hated are the ones where I'm like, how about this?
Yeah, that's true.
Let's read Killing Cupid. It sounds awesome.
Oh my God, we're going to talk about the toilet seat again?
That was done because we were looking for something with a Valentine's Day theme.
You're just going to continue to put that back on us. I get it. It's okay.
I'm just saying we were specifically looking for things with a tie-in to Valentine's Day because it was February.
You're right.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
you're
so
right.
sorry.
You're right.
Like,
You're
I
right.
think in the end, I think I may have hated it more than you guys hated it.
Yeah,
You
really
did. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I still laugh at myself every time because whenever I think of that particular book, you know, when it said it was written by two people, I expected them to collaborate all the way through. I didn't expect it to be author 1 does chapters 1 through 10 and author 2 does 11 through 20. You know what I mean? So it kind of threw me, even though, I mean, in the back of my head, I knew that it was two different authors, but I did, and I don't know, it didn't collate. And every time I think of that stupid ass book, I think, oh man.
Yeah. So just a reminder.
Flavor it.
Just a reminder to our listeners and viewers: don't ever read Killing Cupid.
No,
don't do it.
No, save yourselves. Do not read that book.
It is terrible.
What do you guys
pick up the Man from the Train instead? You'll like
All
that
right,
one.
so what are y'all reading now? I'm curious. What you guys reading?
I just finished The Man from the Train like yesterday.
Oh shit! All right then.
Well, I mean, I was trying to, particularly once I got started, and I was like, holy crap, I'm never going to remember all of these dead people and their 13 names apiece. So I knew that I was going to have to read a lot of it this week.
Yeah. The, you know, and I wanted to bring up, you know, we all liked I'll Be Gone in the Dark.
Yeah.
But I had a very similar issue with so many cases that I couldn't keep them all straight. So eventually I just kind of let it wash over me and was like, okay. And one of the things too is that it did seem that they were talking, excuse me, but I got a runny nose. It did seem like they were talking about a lot of cases that weren't related in that book, but that was really because they were talking about two sets of cases that turned out to that were suspected to be two different people, but turned out to be the same guy. Yeah. So there was a point to that. And in this one, there didn't seem to be a point, you know, a really good point, other than what you were talking about, Andy, about, you know, that they did the research and ruled it out. Yeah. But yeah.
So, question, do you feel like if they had told the story in chronological order, that it would have been better? Because I feel like we did a lot of hopping around in time. Or do you feel like if they had given the name earlier in the book and then spent the rest of the time sort of backing up why they thought it was that dude, it would have been better?
I like the idea of having it be chronological because I had a real hard time keeping up with, you know, and then there was this case and then this one, I'm like, I don't know what the fuck is going on
And then
anymore.
10 years earlier, there had been someone in this town who, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe. I think I think that if the urge ever hit me again, now that I know that those two cases were connected or had the possibility of being connected, I'm almost intrigued enough to go back and try again. But I think I would do it in smaller bits and not try to pay attention to who the people were or when the cases happened. Just kind of relax and let all of that go, and see how I felt about it then. But yeah, I think chronological, like I didn't know that they even came up with a name. I had no idea until you guys talked about it today.
Yeah.
I think I just would have liked it to have been a bit more cohesive and focused on the case, on the crimes that were part of the actual case and not the extra ones, because that really confused me and just kind of was like, oh, fuck. I just want to know about this guy and what made him tick and who he was and, you know, like you do. You want to know that stuff, especially when you're talking about a true crime and you're talking about identifying a serial killer. I want to know the details of that dude's life and what was it about his past or his mental state that created this dude, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I might give it another shot at some point. Probably not anytime. Maybe the next time, Andy, you listen to it, maybe I'll pick it up. So like next month sometime. Is that?
I mean, that's why I was thinking if they had started with, here's the dude we think it is, and here's why. And then they went through each of the cases that they thought had been perpetrated by him in order. I feel like they could have made a really strong case for this guy being a serial killer and potentially being this dude. So, I mean, that's how I would like have them to organize all of that stuff. I did see online that they ended up reaching out to this woman who had written a book about the group of African Americans who had been lynched for one of these murders. Or maybe the publisher reached out to her and said, hey, you might be interested in this book because we see that you have written about this. And so she was like, yeah. Because I guess when her book came out, which was essentially trying to explain that she thought that these people were falsely murdered for a crime they didn't commit, people were like, whatever. You know?
Yeah, sad though. Really.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear that, and nobody wants to acknowledge the horrible things that have happened.
Yeah.
In the not too distant.
Yeah, that wasn't that long ago.
No.
Not at all.
Well, that was one of the things that kind of pissed me off too. Is it was just a one-line thing, and I was just like, you smug bastard. Is when he was citing some other some woman who wrote her thesis or something about this case, and she had posted it online, and he read it, and she had come to some of the same conclusions or whatever, and then she made some other conclusion that he didn't agree with, and he just said something like, if she wasn't smart enough to figure this out or something, like, you fucker.
That's true.
Yeah. Go on back to baseball, you prick. Yeah, I just didn't like the author's voice at all. But so I'm kind of reading a few different things all at once, but just barely started. I wanted something a little lighter. So I started the Color of Magic by Terry Pratchett, who I've never read before. So it's funny, and it's the first in the Discworld.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask you.
Have you read any of those? Series.
No, I feel like I have one though on my bookshelf somewhere. You know, I picked it up at a used bookstore somewhere, and I don't think that I ever actually started it.
I think how that came up was I was reading some posts on the shit show that is J.K. Rowling.
Oh yeah.
And they were talking about somebody had posted something about, well, if you want to read somebody who will never end up being a horrible human being, read some of Terry Pratchett's books. If you're looking for a happy magical world, or a complex magical world, give the Discworld series a shot. And I was like, you know what? I think I will. So that's what I did. I picked the Kindle book. I think it was $4. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, they've been around for decades, so...
Yeah. And he's dead, so I don't think they'll be putting out any more. So I can just...
Yeah, but there's a ton of them.
Yeah, like 40 or something.
He did a lot before he died.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and, with regard to J.K. Rowling, when we go back and talk about that detective book...
Galbraith's, right? Isn't that...
Right,
yeah. Galbraith?
Yes.
Yeah, Robert
Yeah.
Galbraith, the
Right.
Cormoran Strike books.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I recall saying, I really thought that her writing was going to be exceptional because so many people love the Harry Potter books, and
Yeah.
I find her writing to be exceptional. But so now maybe I'm thinking, obviously what people fell in love with was the land of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I guess I read I read the first Harry Potter book, and it was fine. But I really liked I liked the first three of the Cormoran Strike books. I know I liked them more than you guys did, the one that we read. But I also really like Casual Vacancy. It was just so mundane and just
And you
everyday
like that
like,
about
kind of
it.
stuff. I did like it. It was definitely, it was all about the characters, and I really did enjoy it. So, and I don't feel bad about enjoying it. I mean, she's a piece of shit, but what are you gonna
Well,
do?
Jesus.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to just write her off and say she's a complete piece of shit because in the past she has been so good when it comes to most liberal issues. But yeah,
Right.
she's
But when it comes to
completely
transgender,
transphobic,
yeah, she is.
and that's unfortunate.
Yeah,
That really, it really is. It really is unfortunate because she's such a, she's meant so much to people. I mean, not to me, but I mean, I could
Yeah,
give
or
it,
me.
but
But
right.
I think that there are a lot of people, particularly in the LGBTQ community, who grew up loving Harry Potter because all of those characters were so idiosyncratic, and I think they got the sense that they could be whoever they were.
Sure.
Yeah.
But obviously, that wasn't necessarily a message that she was intending to convey. So yeah.
As long as you identify, with the gender that she wants you to, then it's okay. But yeah, I don't know. Everything is so depressing. I just can't stand it.
And I have to say that I feel like that makes reading books in general a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it certainly makes me a lot quicker to be like, all right, I'm done with this. Because,
Yep. The world itself is just so hard. And it's so, emotionally and mentally difficult just to exist.
Right.
Without trying to, self-medicate or, rip your hair out, slit your wrists, whatever. It's too hard. So I can't, I, I can't, like, I read, what did I read? I read Missoula, which was all about collegiate date rape culture at Missoula, which was a great book. I didn't even write a review for it because I just couldn't. I just can't write a review about that. And then there was one other that I read either right before or right after that dealt with something really heavy. I can't even remember what it was now, and I was just, I can't. It's fine. Here's some stars. That's all I can do for you.
That's what I usually do.
Huh?
I just put the stars down. I don't actually review. Words? Yeah. No, I'm just gonna put stars there.
It's tough. So between I wanted to talk. I know we're gonna run out of time, but I wanted to talk about serial killers on Netflix. Did you guys watch the Henry Lee Lucas?
Not yet. It's in my watch list.
It was really good. I mean, I didn't know anything about Henry Lee Lucas before watching it, but essentially, he confessed to hundreds of crimes, and it turns out he didn't do like any of them. He was he just wanted to please the sheriff, and it was like, I'm just watching it like, yeah, I mean, yeah, he's a fucked up dude. He killed his mom.
He's definitely a fucked up dude. Oh.
Right.
Oh.
So he is called the Confession Killer.
Yeah. I think that's what it was. It was really interesting. Go ahead.
No, remind me later when you're done to talk about mine hunters.
Oh, okay.
How much of that rye have you had?
Oh my God, so many.
Yeah.
It's going to be nap time in a minute.
I think maybe. Yeah, may just take nap time right on the floor there. It's so comfortable.
The couch, no, her chair's right there. She's fine. Just got to move over to the chair.
Where's the chair?
Is that my blanket?
It is. You know, I got to frisk my mother every time she leaves. Seriously.
Yeah. I'll make you another one.
Okay.
Yeah, eventually.
So anyway, I'm sorry, Lucas. You were saying.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No.
Yeah, it was just it was really interesting. I think it was like it's a several part series, but just as it goes on, I'm like, oh my God. And so I don't know, did you guys ever see Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer?
No. I know of
that
it.
movie fucked me up. I mean, it's
gritty, right? Isn't it gritty?
It's gruesome and gritty, and I didn't realize that it's based on, and I didn't see this anywhere, but I'm 100% sure that the movie is based on Henry Lee Lucas.
But his confessions or the reality, though?
No, his confessions, because the movie was done in the 80s, and it wasn't until later that. So what they did is they had these. The sheriff would bring in all of these law enforcement agencies from all around the country, and to talk to Henry Lee about any open cases that they had, because he was like a drifter. You know, he would drive around, and so he's like, oh yeah, I did that. And he would, you know, in the first few episodes, they're talking about how he had all of he would remember where things were, and he would do this, that, and the other, and know all of these details that no one but the killer could know. And so they had him, it was like up to over 300 cases that he had confessed to. And then as the episodes progress, they do more research and find out he was in Florida on the day that he confessed to a murder in California or in Washington or something. So they repeatedly found like concrete evidence that there's no way he could have committed most of these crimes. And it's just interesting because the sheriff and he developed a relationship with the sheriff where he just wanted to help the guy out. He's like, oh, he's got these open cases and I'll just confess to them.
It wasn't to the eye of wanting publicity.
Well, they were saying, so he had a really shitty childhood and, just never got any love and attention, positive attention. So he's getting all of this now, right? So he just wanted to keep pleasing. But I definitely recommend it. It was very interesting. And it wasn't until they came up with a death penalty case that he was like, oh, okay, hold on. Hold on, because all of the previous ones, he figured, you know what, I'm already serving life. Why not help this guy out?
Yeah. But the sad part is somewhere there was the killer that got away with it.
Exactly.
I'm sure there were tons of killers who got away with it.
Absolutely.
There were, and they, I think, and then when DNA evidence started coming into the fore, they identified, like, I think at the very end, they were, at the end of the show, they'll put up some statistics or additional information, and one of that was that they were able to find 20 of the real killers.
Wow.
Out of the 300 and some. But it does appear that he did do a couple of the murders, at least the first two.
So I am on the Wikipedia page because that's where we go.
Did he spend time in New York?
And there's a Hudson River incident?
That's right. This says that in prison he confessed to over 600 murders,
Oh my God.
claiming he committed roughly one murder a week between his release from prison in 1975 and his arrest in 1983. Blah, 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 blah. The vast majority of his claims turned out to be false. Lucas was convicted of 11 murders, but law enforcement officers and other investigators have overwhelmingly rejected his claims of having killed hundreds of victims. They produced the Lucas Report, which concluded that reliable physical evidence linked him to 3 murders. Others familiar with the case have suggested that Lucas committed a low of 2 murders to at most about 40. Hundreds of confessions stemmed from the fact that he was confessing to almost every unsolved murder brought before him, often with the collusion of police officers who wanted to clear their files of unsolved and cold cases. Yep. Lucas reported that the false confessions ensured better conviction conditions for him, as law enforcement officers would offer him incentives to confess to crimes he did not commit.
Wow.
Milkshakes. He was a big fan of strawberry milkshakes.
And it looks like there was a sequel to the Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer.
What?
Really?
There was Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer Part 2, which came out in 1996.
Yeah, the first Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, it kind of fucked me up. Like, I haven't seen it in probably 2 or 3 decades. And
well, you should watch Part 2. Get back to us.
I'm going to pass. So who was Michael Rooker? Rooker played Henry.
Let's go back to Wikipedia.
Uh-oh.
He was, for me, I think part of what fucked me up is I remember feeling a lot of empathy toward this guy. And him just being so incredibly vicious. And then the other dude that shows up, I thought his name was Otis, but it may have been Otis because in the documentary, his buddy is arrested and they call him Otis. They pronounce his name Otis, Ottis. But yeah, I recommend you giving it a shot if you can find it.
It's on my watch list somewhere. I don't remember which venue, but it's
I don't know if I could. Yeah, I don't know if I would watch it again. I think I've seen it twice.
Oh shit!
And it was I don't know. It left a mark on me. I don't know. I may watch it if I watch it again. I may not feel the same way, but yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Over there reading, Colin.
Well, what?
What are you reading?
Oh, I told you I haven't jumped into anything else because I just finished.
No, I think she meant right now. What are you reading on Wikipedia right now?
More about Henry Lee Lucas?
Oh! Sorry, I had closed the browser.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Oh, we thought you were looking more about Henry Lee Lucas. Never mind.
Yeah.
No, then I clicked on Michael Rooker to find out who he was, and I recognized his face, and he was a dude from Walking Dead and Guardians of the Galaxy.
He didn't do much in between, I don't think.
Well, I mean, so he was in 8 Men Out. He was in Mississippi Burning. He was in JFK. I think I saw all 3 of those. He was in Sea of Love. I remember that with Al Pacino and Ellen Barkin. He was in Days of Thunder, which has Tom Cruise in it. So I can tell you emphatically that I did not see that.
I did not see that.
He was in Tombstone. Yeah. I definitely saw Tombstone. I don't know who he played in that.
Check out Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer and let me know what you think. Andy, for sure.
Yes, I mean, that is not a resounding endorsement from you when you say, I saw it and it really fucked me up.
It kind of messed me up.
But no, that is actually good resounding endorsement if you think about it. That it impacted you.
Yeah, it's stuck.
There's like a couple of movies that I can tell you that I saw that really fucked me up.
Bring it.
Okay, I remember seeing The Exorcist. That really fucked me up.
That was
and awesome. I'm not even like Catholic, but it didn't matter.
No, What face
because
you-
I think I was like 13.
oh
so-
shit, you watched it at 13.
Oh, that's a good impressionable
That-
age.
yeah,
really
man.
fucked me up.
What the hell?
I also saw The Omen probably right around the same time, and that really fucked me up too.
Yeah, that was creepy, especially toward the end when he pulls the hair back and you see that 666 right near the ear. I'm like, ah! Yes, I remember.
Neither one of those movies did anything for me in a
Rosemary's Baby?
fucked up kind of way.
It came out about the same time. Did you see
Which one?
Yeah, I guess they did.
No?
What?
Rosemary's Baby.
Oh, I have not seen that all the way through.
Yeah, none of those did anything for me.
Yeah, is that based on a book?
Yes.
Yeah,
And do we know who wrote the novel?
Rosemary.
Ah! I keep thinking Peter Benchley, but that's not it. He did
That's
Jaws.
not true. Yeah,
Ah!
that's not true.
I mean, have you guys read the book?
No, I read Jaws. It was
No,
not
but you know
good.
what? Colette's onto something here. That's a classic. We haven't read it. Ira Levitt.
Rosemary's
and-
Baby
Yeah.
Yeah, Rosemary's Baby. Maybe that's what we
Alright.
should do.
for January.
Why not?
All right, I'm on
I
board.
mean,
For
we did
President's
the classics, right? We did One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Valentine's Day. We could do it for Valentine's
We-
Day.
We did The Thin Man. We've done some classic stuff.
Yeah.
Except,
All right.
except that I liked The Thin Man and I
Ah!
flew over the cuckoo's nest.
All right, well, we'll talk about it offline. We'll talk about it.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're late.
We are definitely over time, but I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Listening, I sure enjoyed talking about it. I'm sorry that my co-host did not enjoy it as much.
Well, and I'm sure she enjoyed her 9 shots of rye.
We did.
It was delicious.
Yes.
Delicious. So those of you watching and listening, I hope you have a happy holiday. And if you're listening to after, I hope you had a great holiday. And we'll see you guys again in January. Date to be determined, but it's not live, so who gives a shit? But we'll get it out there.
There
Yeah,
you
who gives a shit?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Happy holidays. Have a great new year. We'll see you later.
All right.